All right, let's get started. Energy psychology, stress release technology. And these are a number of books that I've written in the past on coherent coaching, energy psychology, the use of heart rate variability, biofeedback instrumentation, and other types of technologies, including a real advanced form of energy psychology where you're using white light as a way to release traumatic incidents. This is my latest book, High-Tech Alchemy Meets Ancient Metaphysics, a study in high magic and altered states. And I'll be taking information from this book and giving you a briefing on this and how this technology works for stress reduction, releasing traumatic incidents, how it can work in an adjunct to therapy, how it works to increase your bliss, and how it can change self-limiting or transmute self-limiting belief systems. This is the first person that I studied from, or his material, and this is Sigmund Freud. And I studied hypnosis with Sigmund Freud, and you'll see how hypnosis plays a part in our action at a distance systems, remote influencing, stress reduction as we're talking about here. And let me just mention, just starting out, old-time psychology. I'm going to show you three modes or models of psychology: old-time psychology, energy psychology, and quantum psychology. Now I'll show you the breakthroughs in quantum psychology that transmute stress to bliss. And I'll be giving you some demos of that as we go along here. There's also a demonstration of that on our website. So just so you know, old-time psychology, which I started my training in 1965, took a long time to get results. I don't mean just in the education I had to go through. I mean, it took a long time with that form of psychology to get results in a patient. The therapist literally had patients for 10 years or more, and sometimes for a lifetime. I started my psychology training in 1965, but that's after I started psychotherapy when I was 13. And at 13 years old, I started psychotherapy, and I took about 9 years to get to a real good place. Now, I finished my PhD and delivered 20,000 plus hours to patients and clients in Europe and the United States. I can tell you it's a long haul. I even started a biofeedback manufacturing company and trained thousands of therapists in these techniques. My company was called Introspective Technology Services, or ITS. That was 1976. I also pioneered computer stress analysis, or voice stress analysis, for psychological training and psychological testing. It was a stress management tool. And the object of therapy is to address and hopefully release traumatic incidents going back into childhood to the basic or first time. You want to release the first time it happened. And this is Psychology 101. Incidents are assembled or filed subconsciously in threads of similar kinds. You have one thread of trouble with women, one with men, one with money, one with eating, and there can also be many, or one can find many threads on money or women or men or jobs or rejection, etc. And the object is to get to the first time of each thread. And the problem is that to contact and release the basic or first time, you need to go down the timeline, down the thread towards the past, and release each incident to be able to see the next earlier one. So you are clearing negative mental energy or each incident as you go. And the similarity of each incident on the thread is similar feeling and similar subject matter. And there may be hundreds of threads accounting for the many years in therapy for some. And the model here is to recreate the content of each incident and thoroughly re-experience it, and then it will release. And the catharsis may come from the process of dream analysis, primal scream, hypnosis, beating a pillow, role-playing, biofeedback analysis, regression, etc. So that's the psychology that I learned starting out in 1965. Now, energy psychology has just come about recently, in the last, let's say, 20 years. And in this field of energy psychology, you'll find EFT, or emotional freedom techniques, thought field therapy, EMDR, and all these are faster mechanisms of release. They have their limitations, but they are certainly faster. So what I would tell you here is that You are literally tapping the acupoints. It's called bilateral stimulation, pattern interrupt hypnosis, phasing or phrasing issues. You're simulating a REM sleep, which is you're balancing left and right hemispheres by having your eyes go back and forth or sounds go back and forth in your ears. What you're doing is you're stimulating or modeling REM sleep or bringing it about. I've also written some of these breakthroughs in my book that I was mentioning here, covering EFT and energy psychology and coherent coaching. But energy psychology processes still take up more time than some are willing to spend, and some therapists are willing to admit, as you are often addressing each incident on the thread while tapping, phrasing, or some other form of therapeutic dialogue. And the tapping of the acupoints can be a lot faster release than ordinary talk therapy, as you are addressing the emotional or subtle bodies, which have been shown to work in thousands of years of research, particularly in acupuncture. This is a heart rate variability monitor that's used in that type of work. And that's a clinical grade system, and it's beneficial in locating incidents in the subconscious. I define it as the GPS for the subconscious. So this is a matter of a lot of stress, and those various threads increase that stress and are the source of it. And you have to resolve each thread in old-time psychology to get the kind of result you're looking for. I think this illustration puts it pretty squarely on what it is. You're running away from fear, running towards a goal. And fear there, that arm on the left-hand side, is all those chains or threads or traumatic incidents that exist. So what form of magic or Harry Potter sorcery do we need to do to get this resolved and to release stress and bring about bliss? So this is an example of those threads that I was describing, and you can see each one coming here. I'm going to see if I can, how good I am at this. And you can see one here kind of going like this. That's one thread. Here's another thread. Look at this. Goes like this. This is trouble with money. This one here is not being able to take orders. This one here is being upset over not enough time. This one here is rejection, having to do with authority figures. This one here is can't take criticism regarding their artwork and creativity. And I'm going to make a few more here. You can get the idea. And these are threads. And you have to go from here. This is the one most current in the present moment. Back down the thread. Here you're going down all the incidents here. And back down to right here and here. And there you are, that's the basic incident. This is hypnosis, or an example of it, of inducing a state of deep relaxation where one becomes more suggestible. And I was trained in this starting in 1965. And this is a kind of a gross way of describing hypnosis, pretty theatrical, but it also illustrates it, at least for this starting point on it. So this is an example of the EFT and thought field therapy tapping points right here. And I'm going to show those to you. I love to draw. So here's one here. Another, you're tapping there, and there. You can do these in any sequence. And there's one here, and one here. And you tap here, and this is bilateral tapping. And it has quite an interesting and quick state of release. This is an app on our website at iblissnow.com, and this is that green ball here, or blue ball as we have it on this one, right here. This goes back and forth, and you watch it go this way and this way, back and forth and back and forth. And the sounds, this one works best with headphones, and the sounds change ears. And what happens is, as you do that, an altered state builds because there's energy put in the app of white light, which is very phenomenal for releasing traumatic incidents or traumatic cellular memory. This is out of Egyptian temple science. This is what's called a waj. And what it does is it generates energy. It's a sacred geometry system that comes directly out of Egypt, and it generates white light. And I will show you here how this works. This here, there's an antenna. See if I can get that there. There's the antenna. These are domes, and there are 4 of these here, as you can see. And now the angularity of here to here is what generates the white light field. That's what tunes it. And whatever that angularity is, if it was wider like this, that would make a different field. But it's this one here that causes the white light. It's exact measurement. It's exact measurement of white light called ultra white light. And this will be important to you because I'll show you how we put this into our apps to bring about a state of bliss by releasing traumatic cellular memory in what's called triggering. I draw your attention here. This is something, one of my adventures in Thailand. And this is a Wat or sacred geometric building. And this is here, and when you're in it, you can feel the altered state. And how this works is my handy dandy little pencil here. Oh boy, energy comes down from here like this. But where it goes like this is very similar to the Waj or piece of sacred geometry I just showed you. And the energy comes down from the top here. It comes down like this. This is the way it's set up. And where you are sitting in the temple or standing will determine what fields you get. It's very much, we'll get into this in our radionics action at a distance series, which will be upcoming. You'll see exactly how this works. While traveling in India, which I've spent quite a bit of time there, you'll see this particular symbol or these symbols. And these are yantras, and they are sacred geometry, and then they generate an energy field. The problem is that you've got to amplify it by billions of times to have it be useful. But we've done this in the quantum physics lab. And I'll show you exactly how we've done that as we move along. But there's too much to cover all at once, so we just got to take our time through. Build a good foundation. This may look like a snail to you, but in fact a snail is sacred geometry. The way this is set up here is generating a particular field of gold, a very interesting field of gold, which we'll talk about and tie into Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. We'll tie it into white powder of gold. We'll tie it into bliss and altered states. It goes way, way back through Egypt, way, way back. And this is the food of the gods when you amplify the energetic field. But it has to be amplified. And that's why you see big structures in Egypt and India, because they take big structures in order to get any effect. Now, what we've done is we've used a piece of software, and we've done some work with a quantum computer and developed some quantum software to amplify it. So that's why you're able to get this into an app. And we'll show you this as we move along. All right, now we're getting into it. If you're a fan of the mystery schools, I will tell you that so much is being shown with these hieroglyphics here. And I want to thank Dr. Ibrahim Karim of Cairo for his phenomenal translation of a lot of the Egyptian temple science and Egyptian mystery school technology, particularly Left Eye of Horus Mystery School. And you'll see this here. Now, do you see it in here? Do you? Probably don't, because unless you know what you're looking for, it's not easily discernible. But what I'm going to do is show you here. Oh, something blocked it here, but goes like this, and it goes like this. And it's sitting here, right in here. And you'll see this a lot. This shape is very, very common. And you'll see it, if I could only unblock this here, which I don't know how to do. But anyway, maybe you get it there for a second. I don't know, but it's up the top right here. And it's showing this most unique piece of geometry. Now, what does this geometry mean? Let's take another look at it, and let's go deeper down the rabbit hole here. All right, you can see that now. In their hands, they're holding this particular pyramidish looking item, tetrahedron looking item. What is it? Well, what that is what's called white powder of gold. If you're a Harry Potter fan, that's the Sorcerer's Stone, or the Philosopher's Stone, or the Manna from Heaven, etc. And all these are ways of describing this particular compound. And it gets most unusual and most unusual as it goes along, because we're going further down the rabbit hole here. And what we'll be talking about, we're now up to the point now of discussing quantum psychology. And quantum psychology has to do with this little item here. Here's my drawing skill. Bear with me. Look at this. And look at this. What it's doing here, if you understand what's being shown here, you are understanding the deepest secrets of the mystery schools. You understand the Holy Grail. You understand so much. And what you understand is that they're showing you the angle. What I've outlined in red here is the angle. This is the angle for ultra white powder of gold, or what's called ultra white light. And they're giving you the cue right there. That's the symbol for it. And you can see here that there's a couple of different tetrahedrons within tetrahedrons. And I'll go into that a lot more depth. But I want to stay with the quantum psychology. And this here's the Egyptian cross. And I'll show you on the radionics and action at a distance section, I'll show you how this works. It's a mind blower. Now last here, you'll see this hat. Right here, the hat on this guy, same angle as this. They're telling you that, giving you the clue or the cue, that this is the angularity to build sacred geometry to generate the ultra white light. You're now an initiate. All right, so am I making fun of this poor kid here, this poor student? No, not at all. But do you notice the similarity between what I showed you with the triangles or tetrahedrons and what he's wearing? He's wearing a hat called a dunce cap. And that dunce cap is a particular, when it's done right, it's a particular angularity which generates a field of white light which releases tension and stress and self-limiting belief systems and what I guess they would call back then stupidity or duncichness. So this is what it is. This is a use of sacred geometry that probably you didn't know about. But when you see old films with a kid wearing a dunce hat, the hat on there, yes, he's looking shamed. But the purpose of it is generating the field into the brain to balance left and right brain hemispheres with ultra white light. And it's very much the same angle, if the picture is in the right perspective, as what you saw earlier with the cone of the white powder of gold in the hands of the Egyptian. And here's that just for comparison. Yep, and you can see the Egyptian here, he's wearing a dunce cap. But it's for a very different purpose. I wrote a book called The Bliss Factor back, 30 years ago or so. And this is a device on the left-hand side here that I built. You'll notice the tetrahedron, very similar to the dunce cap and the white powder of gold. And this uses noble gases, a scalar ionizer, and rare earth minerals. And what happens is the scalar ionizer ionizes the gases and it produces an altered state field, or a pulse magnetic field. This device was really quite phenomenal. We sold thousands and thousands of them. And I wanted to show you that here because this device was difficult to manufacture, expensive. That was a $12,500 device you're looking at there. They were difficult to manufacture. We had a high rejection rate on the parts that vendors made for us. They were difficult to ship. They were heavy. They were one formulation, and that's it. And they sold like hotcakes, so to speak. I mean, we could keep those. We just, after 7 years of that company, I mean, it just burned me out. But it was an incredibly powerful device, and I sold a lot of those to therapists. They were real happy about it, and restaurants and clubs and all kinds of places. But I will show you where this has evolved to. This is an extended or extension hard drive. It's a terabyte. What we've done is taken and encoded that energy field that you saw in the earlier device. We've encoded that into this device here. And it works quite well. It does. And when you plug that in, you can either carry it in your pocket, which will generate a nice altered state. But if you happen to go further than that and plug it into your computer and have it near you, or put it in your pocket or hold it in your hand, but even near you is fine, it'll generate a really good altered state of consciousness. And it'll release traumatic cellular memory like crazy. Really does it. And this is where quantum psychology comes in. Quantum psychology comes in when you're using devices, whether software or other forms of devices, and you take those devices and you use those as psychotronic devices or action at a distance devices to be able to get this kind of result. So that's where it comes in. And quantum psychology takes the developments in quantum physics and reapplies them in psychology and energy psychology. And in the quantum world, mechanisms in energy fields release traumatic cellular memory or threads, and they bring about a state of bliss. They actually transmute the stress into bliss. And we've used biofeedback instrumentation to measure that, so we know that we're on the right track and we're getting the correct results. A lot of other instrumentation too. We built all our own systems in the lab. And in energy psychology, or moving up to quantum psychology, systems like Egyptian temple science, sacred geometry, herbs, sacred medicines are studied, shamanistic ceremonies or shamanistic rituals and healing events, meditation, power spots, breathing techniques, plant medicines, astrology, alchemy. Really nothing's left out. Mandalas, guided imagery, etc. These are all studied because all of these can bring about a result. And a lot of this psychological research goes on in a quantum physics lab. And it's hard-won bench work, not academic or academic theorizing. It's not just modeling. It's actually testing it on the workbench, hard science with measurement. And when these ancient systems are researched, you find out over and over again that they had something going for themselves that was incredible. And Egyptian temple science was really rediscovered by the French radiesthesists in 1940, when they discovered white light, which was a specific wavelength that released negative mental imagery or energy, and it released subconscious incidents or traumatic cellular memory. And we created frequency files and energy files with these particular remedies in it of white light, and we tested it with patients and such, and we found, yes, definitely so, it caused a release. And what it does is when you have it with you and you're working with that energy, it releases triggering, and also it prevents re-triggering in most cases, not all. There's no always in this field, but it does a high percentage of release. And it can be self-administered by a layperson, which I think is incredible, and it releases self-limiting belief systems really nicely. These are our apps that we've developed, and the energy fields that you saw are contained in here. In other words, this one here on the left-hand side is a mobile device. Call an iPod or an Android or whatever, iTouch, all the same deal. And it has headphones, and the energy field you can hear. But it's not just hearing, it's a magnetic field. It's a pulse magnetic field. And the energy field comes out through the headphones here, and it also is contained here in the fractal, which is coated with the energy field. Now here it's on a screen, and this screen here is playing the energy field, and there are speakers there that you can hear it with, so you don't need headphones. On the right-hand side here, here's somebody holding an iPad. And actually, these are insane because when you hold them, they vibrate through the sound. The sound vibrates, the speakers vibrates the pod. The energy comes out of the fractal here and out of the speakers and the vibration. So you get seeing, hearing, and feeling. The NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, big three. Here's yours truly showing off all the books behind him. And this is the energy app. This is a video app that's Magic Mushrooms. And it's appearing on the screen there, and I'm showing it to you there. But if you have that in your field, and it's facing you, and the light's shining on you from the screen, you're going into an altered state. And this is white light plus magic mushrooms, which is an ideal adjunct to therapy. And I want to acknowledge Ram Dass, who passed away not long ago. I'm on Maui here, and he passed away not long ago, and I took a training from him in LSD psychotherapy, 1965 at Stanford University. So, love you, Ram Dass, always. This is a closer look. This is an app on a mobile device, and there's the energy field coming out of the visual, and the sound is coming out too, and causing more of a result, because the sound is coded and are encoded, and the visual is encoded also, and the two together work together. You can just put this in your pocket, and you'll walk down the street in a pretty good altered state, and it releases triggering right away. And a lot of our customers carry this at work. I can understand why. Again, you can listen to this, but I put listen in quotes because it's a pulse magnetic field that comes through. And you can do it with headphones, you can put it in your pocket, or you can have it on your desk. This has nothing to do with my lecture, but I went out on Halloween and I want to tell the IRS that it was for business. So here's my picture now, I can write it off. San Francisco, 2019. As you probably guessed, we have mood enhancement apps as well as quantum psychology apps that are available at iblissnow.com. And I'll have a number of other videos up, various other aspects of action at a distance, remote influencing, as I mentioned. I've even got one on Harry Potter. And take a look at each one because I'll be cross-referencing information back and forth. But as far as energy psychology or quantum psychology goes, this psychology works different than other forms because what you're doing is you're releasing triggering. So when you carry one of these mobile devices with you, or you have it on a computer, what happens is the triggering when you trigger, a past incident comes up and jumps on you, then what that does is it releases the trigger point. So it's different than other psychology that you're going back and fishing through the incidents, which could take a lot of years, or tapping on the incidents, which can take quite a bit of time too. What this is doing is releasing the exact triggering point before it builds from a mountain to, or from a molehill to a mountain. And so by releasing that, you're allowing yourself to be free of it at that point. If you want to use it in psychology with various therapies and such, to go back to various incidents in the past, you're welcome to, of course. But this works very, very well just as a releasing of triggering. And I had a lady named Mara Lee write me and say that her mom had passed away, and she was surprised how it just kept releasing the incident and such like that. And she said she was amazed about that. And that's something beyond I was even hoping, because that's a major incident. It would have been for her. But it releases triggering. Okay, folks, thanks very much. And I will see you on the next video.